for attending in this different location, and we hope you enjoy your time today. This now, at the Baylor Club, where you're sitting right now, is actually the new location for all future Rotary meetings, so I hope you like your new day. So what we're going to do is, as a start, for those who are guests today or have been before, Waco Rotary always has some traditions that we do. We have a pledge, we have a Star Spangled Banner, and we're actually going to listen to the version of the tradition of the Star Spangled Banner. We'll say the Pledge of Allegiance and have the invocation. So I invite you to all stand. The Star Spangled Banner. Sorry. Which of course is not working because it's our first time here. So while we're waiting to see if we get a rendition of Star Spangled Banner, we'll say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Laura, are we going to have a Star Spangled Banner?
Larry, start us out.
Okay. We will have an acapella.
And you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, blue stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight. O'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare along bursting in air gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Thank you very much. Please remain standing for our invocation. Will you bow your heads with me? Dear Lord, we thank you for fellowship. We thank you for the blessings that you've given us and the joy that we experience in being with our fellow human beings. We give thanks for all of the blessings of living in this country, for a miracle vaccine, and for our ability to get through a very trying time and come out the other side here to celebrate today. Be with us as Rotarians and help us to remember the values of Rotarians as we go about our lives. Amen.
Amen.
You may be seated. Thank you. Thank you all for joining us today. We normally will recognize individual guests by name, but there's too many of you today. We would be here until 3:30 if we recognized everyone by name. So what I'd like to do right now is, if you would, I want all of the guests, if you are a guest of Waco Rotary today, would you please stand and let us recognize you? Thank you so much for coming. We hope you enjoy your time at Waco Rotary. We did provide a little bit of information about the Waco Rotary Club, and if you're interested in becoming a member, please talk to Catherine Lowe. There's information on that brochure if you are interested, or you can talk to a Rotarian who can nominate you. But we're glad that you're here today. The other thing I wanted to do is just for a little poll to see how many Lady Bears basketball fans do we have in the audience today. So you're in for a treat with our speaker today. We hope you enjoy our program, and we're glad that you're here to experience that with us. Before we do that, though, I want to thank some people, because you can imagine what it was like coming. June of last year. We have had no live meetings. We had to do everything on Zoom. We had to switch things very quickly and learn how to operate in a completely different way. But to do that, and to stay engaged in Rotary, we did some things differently. We did engage people in the way we could. We engaged virtually. We had small group meetings. We had committees that did things. We had service projects that did things virtually. We had a board of directors that continued to meet and advise the whole activity of the club. And so very briefly right now, I just want to recognize some of those people and what they did. And if you'd hold your applause till the end, because we've got several people I want to recognize. Please stand when I mention you or your group. The first thing is the board of directors of Waco Rotary that are here today. Would you please stand up? These people continue to meet, advise the decision to come here today, formed committees, and looked and did a lot of work, and we really appreciate their service. Hold your applause, please, so you guys can sit down. Thank you to the board of directors. Committee chairs that also did things. The man at the back of the room, Tyler Martin, when we had to go virtual and we had to figure out how one goes virtual and what one does, this man at the back of the room knew no more than anybody, the least person who's least technology savvy, and he just figured it out and did it. And for every meeting, except he ran the meetings himself. So he gets his own applause for everything. Always a task because you have to arrange the program, and then you have to do it virtually. It's even harder. Russell Luthay, your incoming president, who's here at the head table. He was membership chair this year, did a lot, met as a committee, did a lot of changes that we're going to be seeing in the future. He's been an excellent support partner for me, and so we appreciate Russell. Chris Dyer is here, led a new committee that's called Knowing Ourselves with the subcommittee of Jennifer Branch. They have organized a project to recognize some of our Rotary veterans that you're going to see in a few weeks. Kim Patterson, stand up, Kim. Kim chaired a new committee on the Rotary Foundation, raised over $18,000 during COVID for the Rotary Foundation. Diane Sawyer, where are you? Diane is on the board, but also ran global grants, so that well in Cameroon that we've been talking about, you have to deal with a very large bureaucratic organization with Rotary International to get money to Africa, but she did it. She's persevered for over 4 years? 5 years. We've lost count of how many years Diane's been in charge of global grants. We got it spent this year, and we have running water in that place in Africa, and we appreciate you, Diane, for doing that. I don't know if Susie Cable is here. I didn't see Susie, but Susie ran our student guest program during COVID, so we got videos of student guests instead of live student guests, so that you can still understand and learn about the young people in our community and how they were persevering during this time. So we appreciate Susie and her committee doing that. Rosemary Mays Ray Hughes led the Youth Service Awards during COVID. So we still had awards, we still raised money. Thank you for those who gave to the Youth Service Awards, and thank Rosemary and the committee for selecting a student from every school. And Kid Surrey, thank you for once again publicizing it in the Trib, gave us great coverage for that effort. Herb Bristow, I don't know if Herb is here, but he continued to manage the global scholarship during this time. We always have great candidates because we have wonderful universities here that are nominated for that, and he's committee met and made recommendations. Jim Newcomb, I saw you earlier. We revamped our literacy kits with the library, and even though they wouldn't let any of our volunteers in there, Jim found a way to get our literacy kits updated so that parents have resources to be able to work with their kids on literacy. So thank you, Jim, for spearheading that. Mike Stone, past president, organized the president and past presidents in several efforts this year, so Mike, we appreciate you. Matt Morrison, I don't know if he's here, but he's our treasurer and runs our administrative budget. And then Dana Broadway's here. She reorganized our new member organization, and we still had 6 new members during this year too, and so she facilitated that, and we appreciate her. Will you join me in recognizing all these people? I have a couple of special guests that I want to recognize. We have our incoming district governor-elect, Beverly Luque, here at the back, and she's joined with Pat O'Farrell. The Rotary District, our district, is having its conference in Waco next year. And so she's here today. It just happened last weekend, and she's here starting on next week, because she knows, and I'm putting words in her mouth, that Waco would be the best district conference yet. So Beverly, welcome. We look forward to your next year. A guest from the Waco Sunrise Rotary Club, Margaret Ferguson. She's going to talk about project that they're asking all Rotary clubs in our community to participate in. So Margaret, would you come here and tell us about the service project?
Greetings, fellow Rotarians. It's awesome to see we're starting on July 24th, and we're hoping that between all of our clubs, we can get at least 12 members that can go out there and get started, and then we'll keep everybody informed from here on out on any other dates that they might need, that we can all partner together. But it will be a Rotary Build Day, and it'll be announced like that, and it'll be advertised like that. And so we invite all of you to come and participate with us. Also, I'd like to ask, some of you hold on to your magazines. A few years ago, I started asking the clubs in the district to hold on to magazines, the Rotary magazines, and save them, because when we have our golf tournament, we always put that in all the golfers' bags. And so we would really love for any of you that hold on to those, that don't pass them on to middle offices or whatever, to bring them to your meetings here, and I've already coordinated with Catherine to get those from you. And I know some of you still do that right now, but those of you who don't know about it, we'd love for your magazines so that we can repurpose them. Thank you again, and it's a blessing to see everybody.
And volunteering, I'm sure Mark would like to, she's right there out front, and you can come see her about volunteering at the meeting for the Habitat Project. Before we have our speakers, there's one final group I'd like to recognize today, and that is our Paul Harris Fellows. So people who over time give back and belong to the Rotary Foundation are considered Paul Harris Fellows, and it's something we aspire to. So if you are a current Paul Harris Fellow, would you please stand? Thank you. We'd like for everyone to love what we do and to want to become a Paul Harris Fellow as well. So we encourage you, and I think Kim will track you down and talk to you if you have any questions about that. Now I'm going to turn it over to Vice President Russell Lindsay. He's going to introduce our program for today.
All right, thanks Ashley. Thanks everybody for coming. I'm not going to introduce anyone. I'm going to let John Morris, Sportscaster of the Year, do the introductions. Coach, if you guys will make your way up, I'm going to let him do the introduction of the main event here. If we could just thank John. John's been gracious to our club in so many ways in helping us get coaches, get speakers, speak for us on a number of different occasions. Sportscaster of the Year, they'll just give me a round of applause for John.
All right, very good. Welcome to you. Welcome to a new location, and we are honored to be here, your first in-person Rotary meeting in how long? A year and a half? Almost? So quite a while, but we are honored to be here. We, I say, as I introduce to you, Baylor's new women's basketball coach. Everybody welcome Nicki Collen. If you can't tell already, and Coach is actually open to some questions from the audience. So what does that say about her personality? Number one, she's open to that, which is great, and so you'll be formulating some questions, and we'll field those and let her field it very cleanly. Let me introduce someone else who is with her, or a couple other people. Jovan Overshone is here. Stand up, Jovan. She is Senior Associate take the whole program to tell you everything that Jovan does, but just know she's a key member of our athletic staff, and we appreciate her. And as we're talking women's basketball today, Bruce Keatson is here, the voice of the Lady Bears. Bruce, stand up. Welcome to you. Maggie Davis-Stinnett, former Baylor standout, the color analyst for Baylor women's basketball. Y'all are in for a treat with Coach Collen. All right, to begin today, number one, how are things going? What do you think about the Rotary Club? What do you think about the Baylor Club?
Well, I mean, first to start, okay? You can call me Nicki or Coach Nicki. Coach Collen is my husband, has always been. And it's just awkward, like I hear it and I think, where is he? I don't know if you guys know, but my husband coached 35 years. I worked alongside him some of that time. but he was always referred to as Coach Collen. So I've either just been Coach Nicki, but when I hear Coach Collen, I just don't even, I look around. It's like when someone calls me Nicole, because that's my legal name. So things are going well. 3 weeks now on the job today, so technically. I've been in Waco since last Monday, so I was here for about 5 days, went home for a week to clean out. Probably people don't understand that the WNBA, a lot of the coaches don't live in Market, and so they're provided housing in season. And even though I live in Market, for those of you who know Atlanta, it would be like living in Houston on, the outskirts and trying to get into the city. So I always had an apartment in the city during the season. So I had to get my apartment cleaned out, my office cleaned out, and kind of get organized to be here. Now the good thing is my kids are used to me not being around this time of year, because the beauty of the WNBA as a mom was that it was a grind during the season, but I was more of a stay-at-home mom in the off-season. But they're used to this time of year not seeing me except on TV. So now it's FaceTime instead of TV. So anyway, it's going well. Still working on hiring my staff. Hope to have that done by the end of the week. Players start filing in this weekend because summer school starts next week. So they will start with some testing. Then the week after that, we'll start doing our first of 8 weeks that we can designate in the summer for training. So excited to get on the floor with them. As much as this is all exciting and meeting people, ultimately my favorite part of the job is being on the court with the players. So when we can get to that point, I'll feel like this is actually real.
You mentioned Tom, Coach Collen. Tell everybody about your family, Tom, and your 3 kids.
Yeah, so my husband coached 35 years. He's older than me, so he's retired now. Has been a stay-at-home dad, I think, for 5 years. Going on 5 years now. I have 16-year-old twins, boy-girl twins. My daughter got her driver's lessons on Saturday. So that was a big deal in our house. Tom was telling me yesterday, he spent probably 15 minutes explaining to me all the things that he didn't do on Sunday because now she's driving. So my son wanted to go, who has not even started driver's training yet. He wanted to go to the park to work on lacrosse, but he only wanted Reese to take him, so she did that carpool. Then they wanted to go to TJ Maxx because my youngest daughter is 13 and has decided she's going to use her Christmas money to redecorate her room. So they went to TJ Maxx, and then they had to do a joyride to my youngest best friend's house to show off my daughter's new car and all of that. And so he spent all this time telling me what he didn't do that day, and I'm like, okay, so you're complaining about that, and yeah, what have you been doing? But sitting around watching probably WNBA basketball. So yeah, that's kind of the crew. My youngest is 13, will be 14 in August, and really big into her church group. We went to North Point. They have a huge children, middle school, teenage, high school program. So she's really involved in that, but she's also a high level lacrosse player. So plays on a club team that travels the country year round. So, it's they're busy, that's for sure.
And the driving's going well so far.
So, yeah, I mean, Tom was saying my whole life is in that car, so, Reese has been driving since she got her permit. She was one of those kids that was like, wanted to drive anywhere, anytime, and, my son got his permit on the same day and has probably driven 10 times in the last year. Like, it just hasn't been, it's more a big deal for him to pick out what fancy car that he's not gonna get than it is to actually learn to drive, and he FaceTimed me the other day, and he said, Mom, I know you've got a dealer car down there, so Dad said I can have your car. And I said, no. My kids know that my car is my baby. When I won Coach of the Year, my first year in the WNBA, and I had a bonus in my contract, it was the first time I've ever gone and test-driven cars, because I've always had them through universities or, been given cars. And so I just thought, I'm going to do this for the first time where I'm not going and picking out a minivan because I have 3 under 3, or something that was family oriented. So, you know, I went and got myself a really nice Mercedes, and so my son has decided that it's his now.
In his mind, it's his.
It
In your
makes
mind,
sense.
It's not. Yeah.
It's not.
You gotta give him credit. Good try though.
Yeah, well, he's the kid that sends me links all the time to cars he wants, and, you know, Reese knows nothing about cars, so at first she wanted your typical 16-year-old girl white Jeep, and then it was, she still doesn't know the names of cars, she'll just see something and like it. My son will send me links to like 2002 Ferraris, you know? I'm thinking, yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Very good. So I think most everyone knows Nicki was in the WNBA with the Atlanta Dream most recently, 3 years as the head coach there, 2 years prior to that an assistant with Connecticut in the WNBA. You got to know this group here in Waco. When you just say the word Connecticut, you know, I'm surprised there's not a reaction.
Yeah.
So you'll get that. But what difference is it going from, you were in college, you were in the WNBA, you're back to college. What difference is that back to the college life?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest difference is the X's and O's don't change, other than the fact that, quite frankly, I have better players, so some of the X's and O's work better. The biggest difference is in the pros, you're managing personalities. I mean, if you're good at it and you're going to keep your team in line, you have to manage personalities, you have to manage egos. I think at the college level, you're still in the mentor. You know you're always coaching 18 to 22-year-olds. Are some more mature than others? Absolutely. Are some professionals more mature than others? Yes, but they're at the point in their life where very few of them want you involved in their life outside of the 94 feet, you know, when you step into practice each day. So that's a big deal. The other thing that's like was considerably impactful to me is the community. The WNBA fights for any sliver of media attention, for any sliver of community commitment, that type of thing. And so coming back to college was not just about the basketball side, but it was about the coaching community, the Baylor athletic department, the Baylor University in general, and the Waco community. It's just a different kind of thing when somewhere, as opposed to fighting to get people to see that, wow, I'm putting out a really good product. You know, you'll really enjoy it if you come watch, and so you don't have that naturally built-in fan base that you can engage. And so there is no question that to me, coaching is about people, but really it's about life and relationships. And so this was a place that I could tell right away. If you haven't met Jovan, you need to get to know her. She was a big part of her energy, and the interview made me think that knowing that was going to be my sport administrator was a big part of knowing that things were going to be good here.
Yeah, amen to that. That's great. Well, you said a couple of times that WNBA coaching was transactional. What do you mean by that?
Well, I'm not transactional. That was I mean, you just have to, it's a business. And at the end of the day, you can like players and you still have to cut them. You know, I hired an athletic trainer who'd been at the University of Arkansas and was coming to the pros, and sometimes she would just like not want to ask me, like, oh, I really like this player, and one of the other players would be like, she'll be around for another week, don't get too attached. And so it's something that I said, I remember first time I cut a player as a head coach, I did not sleep the night before. I felt like I was absolutely crushing someone's dreams. And, you know, I also said that if I ever get to the point where I don't care when I cut a player, then I got to get out of coaching. But it is more that way because it is a business. You have to consistently have 11 or 12 people. I always say pro coaches are hired to get fired. You don't have long-term contracts. Last year doesn't matter. You know, and you know, when I was probably more devastated when Lloyd Pierce got let go in Atlanta because I felt like they hired him. He had a really young team. He was building the right way. But when he hired Nate McMillan, who'd had great success as a head coach in the NBA, they had like a built-in, you know, backstop. Like if we need to make changes, we've already got someone on staff who's been incredibly successful. So it's transactional in a way that it really comes down to the wins and losses, you know? I mean, that's the biggest thing. And I always said, like, you know, I don't want to be the coach that everyone's like, oh, we really like Nicki, but she didn't win. You know, I mean, that's the tough part about the pros.
I think probably everybody in this room remembers and saw Kalani Brown play here at Baylor, outstanding Baylor career, and then Odyssey Sims the same way. Those were two of the players, Odyssey for just a brief time, but two of the players you had there in Atlanta.
Yeah.
What was their reaction when you said, hey, glad to have you here, but I'm leaving?
Yeah, it was tough. I mean, I think it was the telling them goodbye was tougher on me than it was on them. I think they understand at that level that they're there to further their careers. They make decisions that are best for them. Some of them had come as free agents, you know, and they make decisions based on not just your roster, but how much you can pay them. So they kind of understand the financial model. So, you know, they were different. Kalani was the first to say, like, Coach, I like this move. You know, I really like this move for you. Odyssey was a little quieter because I hadn't been with her as long. And I think it was really important to her that when she was a free agent in February, and my GM and I went to visit her in Dallas and sat down with her and a close friend of hers, we spent a lot of time talking about being a mom. You know, she's got a son, Jaden, just turned 1 April 15th, and I just told her, like, I'm gonna embrace your kid. He can be at practice. If you're comfortable with it, I'll have him on my hip until practice starts, and then I'll hand him off. And so I think she just really felt like it was the right place because I understood what it was like to have kids in that environment. And so we've gone back and forth a lot since I've left. And she asked me the other day if I had any assistant coaching jobs open. So I asked her, are you ready? Are you saying you're ready to retire? And she said, yeah, no, I'm probably not ready to retire. But, you know, she's like, I want to have a plan. And I think part of that is having children helps you grow up or makes you grow up. I don't know, helps or makes, but I think she's starting to see past what's my life going to be like when I'm done playing, because she's hitting that, you know, 30 where you're all of a sudden old as an athlete.
30, yeah.
Right.
All right, who has questions? I'm gonna start with Jimmy's question is what does your roster look like? And then he followed that up with, do you have any eligibility left?
Yeah.
That's Jimmy's question.
Right, so I mean, some key components, and I always feel like it's important for the players, but I think everyone's seen that Alyssa, Queen, Caitlin are real committed to coming back. Sarah Andrews has been great. Jaden Owens has been great. Jordan Lewis, who is a grad transfer from Alabama, fully on board. I don't have the list in front of me, and I'm going to miss people and feel guilty about this. But we need to add some people, you know, in the transfer portal. I think at this point, still trying to figure out what Moon to come back. It's very academics and nursing driven for Moon. So still kind of working through some things with her. She's someone that I've told her, like, hey, I can replace you with maybe as good a player, but I'm not sure I can replace a better person. So, you know, hoping Moon comes back, but making zero guarantees on that. But Kamaria McDaniel, who you guys haven't seen because she was a transfer from Penn State, tore her ACL. She will be back, and she is a really, really aggressive kind of 5'10" wing, and someone that I think the fans are really going to enjoy. She's also, I think she's an old soul, and I say that in the most positive way. She's incredibly mature. She's dealt with this injury. You know, coming to Baylor, you guys probably don't know this, but you know, you need 60 credits at Baylor to get a Baylor degree. And so when a player transfers in after their junior year and they have 90-some credits, they still need 60. You know, they can be almost to graduation and they have to backtrack. So she's worked incredibly hard and taken twice as many classes as other people because she felt like this was the right place for her. So really unique story. I think she's really talented, but you know how like sometimes you just get a soft spot in your heart and you just want to see someone succeed because they do things the right way all the time, and she's kind of in that situation. So once again, looking to add some people in the short term, and you know, really hitting the 22 and 23 classes hard now in recruiting. So, you know, I mean, I think I got off my last recruiting call at 11 o'clock last night. But I told Javon I met the security man, and he was great.
That's great. All right, who has questions? Anybody? Raise a hand or stand up.
Carol Center introduction that you had, you made a statement, I don't know how many people are here. You said that the #1 recruiting same person that you said the reason why you came to Waco.
Well, not one person, but Scott, when I said Scott. I said Scott was Baylor's best recruiter, and Scott was great. And I said it because, you know, in that moment, I had spent 7 hours with that hiring group. And, you know, I joked that it started out with, I had no idea that it was going to be a 7-hour interview. So I had, my oldest daughter was with her dad at cheer nationals in Orlando. My son was with his grandparents, so I had my youngest, and I said, all right, I took the dog out, I'm going to this interview, I'll get back, I'll take you to brunch. You know, I called her a couple hours later, okay, did you find anything to eat? It'll probably be lunch. She's like, yeah, I found some Chex Mix, Mom. This was in my apartment, so I hadn't even like really made a grocery store run yet. And then I called her back one more time, and I'm like, well, it's probably gonna be dinner. Like, is the dog like trying to get out? Because she didn't even have the ability to have like the fob to get through the building, because it was the first time she'd been there. So, you know, that kind of happened. Then I went home, I heard from the president, talked to her for a little bit, then Mac wanted to meet again to offer me the job in person. And, you know, it was so overwhelming and so exciting but overwhelming, and having that conversation with Scott, you know, who's in the same position I'm in. Like, coaches know coaches. They know how you think, they know what you worry about. And, you know, it was just that feeling of having someone like being willing to pray over you, because you're so overwhelmed in that moment that you almost need to take it down a notch. So it was impactful, it was incredibly impactful. It wasn't the only impactful thing. I don't want to take anything away from Mac or, what, having a pavilion to like build the future in and all of those things. But yeah, Scott's an amazing, amazing person.
Very good. Yes, Lee.
Do you have any idea what your non-conference schedule looks like?
I do. Am I allowed to announce that?
Yeah, look at me. Look at Giovanni.
But here's the funny thing is, I inherited that schedule, and it was basically done other than we switched around, and the plan is to go to Cancun for Thanksgiving and play in the MTE in Cancun. I think it was to go to Hawaii. I am not anti-Hawaii, believe me, but I've taken enough teams to Hawaii that sometimes that travel, it's just hard to recover for a couple weeks. And when you can go to Cancun and get 3 good games there, and it's just super easy travel, you know, I made that change. But most of the non-conference games were already in place, so I inherited them, and I couldn't even tell you. I can tell you the plan is to play Louisville in an early season game, and then Michigan. And I don't know if I'm supposed to say that, but you guys now keep it quiet in case I wasn't. I think there will be an announcement on the Michigan game. I'm not sure about the Louisville game. So we have one more game to schedule at this point, but I'm actually hoping to do that as we inherited no home and home series. So everything was either a one game kind of classic on a neutral site or a buy-in game. So I'd like to start at least 1 or 2 home and home, so you have a couple, and we probably need to start that one on the road, to be honest, to balance our schedule, especially with the new net ratings. So I think, you know, when you think about RPI, I'll have a slightly different scheduling philosophy, but I'm gonna stick with what I've got right now.
Okay, very good. Yes,
Do
Dave.
you know any of the other Big 12 coaches already?
I worked with Reagan Peebley at TCU. We were on the same staff at Colorado State, so I've known her a very long time. Like Bill Fenley will tell you at Iowa State that I'm the only player that turned him down twice in the recruiting process. He was at Toledo when I was coming out of high school. Then when I transferred from Purdue, I really thought I was going to go play for him, and I didn't, so I said no again. And actually that summer, he actually took the Iowa State job, so I know him very well. Known Jim Littell for a long time. Like when I was at Arkansas, we used to do close scrimmages with them. I know all of them, quite frankly. I just know some better than others. I mean, Vic Schaefer actually replaced my husband on Gary Blair's staff at Arkansas when my husband got the Colorado State job. And then we coached against Vic when he was at Mississippi State. So, horns down, right? So yeah, I know most of them. I mean, this is the basketball profession is super small. Like, we're all interconnected somehow, some way, through someone. And between summer recruiting and playing against people, like, you tend to get to know everybody.
Good, very good. Questions? All right, think about it. Okay, yes.
Where did you play in college?
Yeah, I played, I grew up in the Midwest, so I was born in Michigan, raised in Ohio, Indiana, and Wisconsin. My dad was in the grocery business, so people ask if I was military. No, my dad was actually an accountant, and he started with Kroger, and then he became an assistant controller, and then started working for a privately held grocery store business, and so each move was like basically a promotion from like controller to CFO, that type of thing. But so I was a Big Ten kid, like just born and raised in the Big Ten. We watched Michigan football on Saturdays. Used to go to Badger games, and when you could sit on the 50-yard line, and then they hired Barry Alvarez, and everything changed. So I went to Purdue. I was at Purdue for 2 years. We were in the Final Four my freshman year, the Elite Eight my sophomore year. But honestly, like I wasn't a super key contributor on either of those teams as far as playing time. And I knew I could get an engineering degree anywhere, so I transferred to Marquette and played 2 years there, made 2 NCAA tournaments, and got my mechanical engineering degree from Marquette.
Wait, say that again.
Oh, look at that is amazing, first of all. So I was born in Southfield, but I was almost like that's the hospital I was born in. So I was born basically outside of Detroit, but my parents were born and raised both in Brooklyn, Michigan, where the Speedway is, and so it's pretty close to Ann Arbor. So they were raised Michigan fans. So, in this business it's crazy because you jump from school to school and it's hard to keep an allegiance. But, I still probably could sing the Michigan fight song. I won't. But I probably could.
And you play Michigan this year, Kevin.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be great. All right, final question. Yes, sir.
Well, just,
Yeah, it's kind of funny. Like, I think my first 3 years in the WNBA, especially when I became a head coach, saying, now, am I allowed to do that? And my GM kept going, there's not rules. There's not rules. Okay, there's not rules. So then all of a sudden, when I took the job here, I'm like, can I go visit Miriam? No, I can't do that. I gotta learn the rules, And so quickly, and the crazy part is I was talking to our compliance people, and the rules are changing so significantly right now that it's almost a good time to come back because they're changing for everybody. So they're like, don't even learn anything that you didn't have to know the last 5 years because you gotta learn new stuff anyway. So I have to take my recruiting test this week. I will be fully prepared to do it, but yeah, I mean, it's still, the groundwork is still the same. It's just, I can't, whenever I so choose during free agency, go fly in and see somebody and take them to dinner and pay for it. I mean, there are rules, but ultimately, whether you're recruiting a free agent or whether you're going after a recruit, it's still about building relationships. It's still about getting to know them understanding who you are, how your team's going to play, how they fit into that. It's connecting with the parents, it's connecting to the high school coaches, it's figuring out who's important in their life, what's going to help them make that decision, and it's not the same for every kid, Is being close to home important? Those type of things. And so is the quite frankly here, we also have the Christian component. We have is this a good fit spiritually? And it doesn't mean for kids that don't go to church, they're not going to come to Baylor. But we hope when we get them that we can introduce them to that. So it's not certainly a hard stop. But it also is a place that attracts kids that are closer to their faith already or have grown up in the church. So it really doesn't change. That part of it's all the same. And now with the portal's free agency anyway. So, those guys are all unrestricted free agents looking for new homes.
All right, we appreciate your time. Thank you very much for being here today, folks. Good to see you.
Thank you so much.
Nicki, now we know the proper way to say that, John, for doing this. We know she's got a lot of stuff to do, so we really appreciate her coming, and knowing how many fans she's got in the community that are just wild about the Lady Bears, so we really appreciate that. So, as part of, before we say the four-way test, I just want to make another announcement. So we had, at the virtual meeting that we had 2 weeks ago, we talked about the changes that the board has made in the club. And if you missed that or haven't seen it, we just want to remind you, we are now going to meet at the Baylor Club. This will be the regular meeting place for all meetings. In addition, rather than having every Monday, we are going to do twice a month. So that was a recommendation by the board. It was vetted with a lot of decision-making and analysis before we did that. But it's going to be twice a month. And so to help everybody just internalize this, we're going to have a little exercise right now. So you're going to start meeting on the second and fourth Monday. So I'm going to say, when I do this, you're going to say with me, second. That really stunk. Let's try it again. Second and fourth Mondays. One more time. Second and fourth Mondays. That's when we're going to meet here at the Baylor Club. So we hope that here are the next couple of meeting dates that are on the slideshow. The 14th is our next meeting. We cannot have a rock star every meeting like we had today. We had a great celebrity. We hope she comes back when they're looking at the season so we can help cheer her on and get excited about the Lady Bears. But we will have, because we're doing twice a month, we're going to have great programs for you. And so we'll announce who our speaker is going to be in the next couple of days, and we'll look forward to hosting everybody back here on the second Monday in June. Thank you. All right, if you will please stand with me and say the four-way test of the things that we think, say, as Rotarians. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? Thanks very much, everyone. Rotary is adjourned.